we are one of 16 particularly that are supporting the American Made Challenges. And if you've had a chance to look at the American Made Challenges, there's many new opportunities and a lot more coming our way recently. There's a lot of different community prizes as well as other prizes that serve other areas such as water, wind, geothermal, many different areas. So I encourage you to take a look at any upcoming prizes or any activities to see what other opportunities are coming up. And as far as the Solar Prize Round 7, we are one of 4 power connectors that are providing services to teams that are seeking applications for Solar Prize Round 7. So we are joined with ADL, Yet2, and VentureWell. So if you haven't had a chance to meet with them, I would encourage you to take a look at their organizational profiles and get an idea of what their specialties are, and perhaps they have an area of expertise that may benefit you as a company. I'm going to turn it over just briefly for a moment to my colleague, Casey Carrillo, who is the Assistant Director of UACI, to just kind of give a quick, oh, I'm sorry, I forget. Casey just recently got a promotion. She is now the Director of Strategic Partnerships. So I'm going to give her a quick moment to go over the UACI as a whole organization, as well as our programming.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to hop on. Like Amanda mentioned, we've been part of Solar Prize for a while, so we're really excited to work with you all on round 7. So we are with the University of Arizona Center for Innovation, and we are a traditional incubator. We serve scalable science and technology-based ventures. We currently have over 70 startups in our program. And what we really focus on is 3 concepts: people, place, and programming. This image right here is an example of what our companies go through. It is our program roadmap. As you can see, we have 27 different areas that our companies really do deep dives into. Some companies might come in with exposure to some of these topics, others might be in progress, and some might be well developed. So the goal is that by the time our companies are done completing our program, that hopefully they'll be well developed or at least in progress of all these different areas. We're located in Tucson, Arizona. We are affiliated with the University of Arizona, which is a Research One university out here in Southern Arizona. We have several locations because we are part of Tech Parks Arizona. So as you can see, the image down in the middle bottom area, that is our Tech Parks, which is located at Rita Road. So we have some incubator space out there with wet labs and dry labs. We also are a part of another tech parks here in town, and then we also have a bioscience-focused incubator as well. On the right-hand side, you can see that we are part of Biosphere 2, which is a place here in Tucson that really focuses on renewable energy. And so we are able to work, and we have a location there as well. So just an overall kind of summary of what we're able to work on. We've been a part of Solar Prize, but if you're interested in learning more about UACI and our programming, always feel free to reach out to Amanda or I. Amanda, I'll toss it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really excited. We have 2 guests with us today, and that's really what the focus will be today. Is that as I've gotten to meet with teams over the last couple months, and even over Solar Prize Round 6, that teams are always curious and interested to hear about competitors that have won in the past and how they won and how they're doing now. And so we're really excited to have 2 of them with us today. And of course, here is an image from Solar Prize Round 5, and just kind of shows their success and their excitement over that final check. But I will first turn it over to Eric Hafter, who is with Origami Solar, who is the winner of the Solar Prize Round 5 hardware track. And I'd love to just give you the floor for a minute, Eric, to just talk about yourself and Origami Solar, and just kind of, what your general problem solution is, and how you're meeting those needs.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and for everybody who's considering this, the American Made Solar Prize. It's been a huge impact on our business, and we're thrilled to be part of it. I've been fortunate to spend the last 30 years of my life in solar industry, as well as being able to start multiple companies, both in manufacturing, EPC, worked in development. And several years ago, we had a concept to solve a problem that we saw in the industry, which was the use of a technology that we thought we could dramatically improve. And we're developing and bringing to market a steel module frame for solar PV modules to replace aluminum frames, with a strong focus in the US and also Europe.
That's awesome, Eric. Thank you for being here. And it was a joy to work with you and see your progress as you went through Solar Prize. Before I turn it over to our next guest, I did, because another interest that I always hear from applicants is seeing some of the materials. And I know this was at the beginning of your Solar Prize journey, but I've included your 90-second video that you submitted with your ready phase. If you're okay, I'd love to just play that quickly and give everybody a chance to get.
This was the first one. This was
right. So many progress happened.
We got better at it as time went along.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm Eric Hafter, co-founder and CEO of Origami Solar. The elements of the PV industry that have led the solar revolution are innovation and increasing performance while achieving consistent cost reductions across the value chain. Cost reduction of PV components has been remarkable in almost every category except PV module frames. Module frames, which are currently manufactured using extruded aluminum, have remained essentially the same cost for over 30 years. To address this high cost, Origami Solar has developed a roll-form steel solar module frame that has the potential to reduce costs up to 3 cents per watt over aluminum frames and deliver a range of additional benefits across the entire solar value chain. The lower frame costs represent a 7.5% module cost reduction achieved through lower cost materials and high-speed manufacturing. Using steel instead of aluminum also results in lowering greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 90% and addresses the supply chain challenges facing the industry. Switching from imported aluminum to domestic steel allows module manufacturers to bring this part of their supply chain back to the United States, creating new union jobs. Steel frames can be sourced and produced in the US with minimal infrastructure costs and can be implemented in months, not years. Origami Solar is replacing a technology that's over 30 years old, costs too much, adds little functionality, and has a very high environmental impact. The new Origami Solar PV module frames mark a substantial cost and GHG reduction, all while delivering increased value benefiting US PV module manufacturers, installers, their customers, and global efforts to improve sustainability.
Great job, Eric.
Okay.
Yes.
The element.
There we go. Well, thank you, Eric, for allowing us to show that. I know it's helpful. I mean, everyone, gets to this point, gets to the narrative, and then they start working on that video and feel a little bit overwhelmed. So, I always encourage everyone to go back and take a look at some past videos and see what others have done. But yeah, over the course of it, you always get to improve. So great job, Bo.
Thank you.
Our second guest today with us is Sierra Fan, who's the co-founder and COO of Illu, which is the Solar Prize Round 5 software track winner. Sierra's been, just a joy to work with, and she's been very interested in supporting other companies that are coming along in the journey. So thanks for joining us today, Sierra, and I'd love to turn it over to you for a moment if you'd like to just introduce yourself and the company and just talk a little bit about, what problems and solutions you're solving.
Yeah, sure. Let me know if you can, hopefully you guys can all hear me.
Yeah.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Sierra. I've been working on Illu for, I guess, the past 2 years now. Illu is a software platform, and we're building a new kind of combined learning and verification platform to help installers or service providers, basically frontline technicians, work with all this new, awesome, cool technology coming out in kind of, the clean energy transition, especially distributed technologies. So how do they kind of keep up to date and learn, and also, make sure they're doing all the processes right when they're on site, working with these new technologies. So yeah, in terms of my experience with the American-made Solar Prize, it was really helpful to me and my team because we had worked for a while in kind of solar related industries in the US, but most recently we were actually overseas, working in kind of overseas energy access, kind of solar microgrid development. So this was actually a really great channel for us to come back into the US and kind of move our focus back into kind of this geography, which we hadn't been for a couple of years, and realized that what we had started kind of innovating and working on while we were overseas was actually really applicable and helpful in the US as well. And it just gave us such a great network to start testing out, getting kind of users on, getting not just users but actual kind of partners who were kind of co-creating and co-developing with us as we were making updates and improvements and changes to our software. Yeah, that was amazing. And I definitely got out of this program some, wonderful mentors and advisors who are still helpful. Now it's been a whole year down the road, and they've continued to, be awesome connectors for us as we continue to grow. So yeah.
Thanks, Sierra. And if you don't mind, we have your 90-second video from your first submission up as well, if you don't mind us playing that and sharing that with everybody.
Yeah.
Distributed solar is growing across the globe, but managing maintenance work on these systems with a remote team can be difficult. Meet Bob, an O&M supervisor. He's fending off alerts, calls, and emails around the clock on maintenance issues. It's hard to keep track of field technicians, make sure they know where to go and what to do. Meanwhile, it's not easy for the technician on site to figure out what she needs to do from all the checklists and manuals. Lucky for Bob, there's Illu. Illu helps solar operators keep their maintenance tasks and know-how all in one place. This means solar technicians can see exactly what needs to be done and how to do it all in real time. Bob can easily create new jobs, attach workflows, and track the progress on the ground. On site, technicians can start their assigned jobs and swipe through customizable guidance cards on their phone to complete the job effectively and safely. Text and photo updates can be made seamlessly in-app, ensuring everyone is on the same page. Illu's team brings together solar experts who have operated systems in the toughest environments and software experts who have built top-of-the-line technology. Illu promotes inclusion in the renewable energy workforce by bringing technical know-how to each technician's fingertips. Learn more about how we're illuminating solar O&M at www.illu.works.
Great job, Sierra. And of course, leave it to the software, team to have this amazing animation. So yeah, so great job. And I know, those are two different examples of videos that, have different themes for each of them. But again, I really encourage you to take a look at some of the past winners, and you can do that by just looking in HeroX for, Solar Prize round 5 or round 6, and you can review some videos from the last rounds to kind of get an idea as you're trying to prepare yours. But thanks, Sarah. So, and turn it back over to you, Eric. And if you want to just talk a little bit about, Sarah talked a little bit about her time within the Solar Prize, but maybe if you could give an overview of where you started at Ready and where you ended at Go, and just kind of your progress during that journey.
So we got into the project, or into the whole process, because our lead engineer had worked on a similar prize when he was in his master's program. And so the first time when we first did it, we really didn't have a sense of sort of what it all entailed. And frankly, the submittal for Ready was not that difficult. You saw our video, we took it seriously, followed all the rules explicitly. But it was a modest amount of work to get to the Ready, which we really appreciated. Once we went from Ready, each round got increasingly more challenging, but it was very much aligned with what we needed to do as a business. A few minutes ago, Casey showed the checklist of all the things that the incubators work on, and that's a classic list of what a startup has to go through. But it was very helpful in working with Carnegie Mellon and the NREL people to help us really think about and form ideas for each one of those. So I think the increasing level of difficulty was good for us, and each round that we got through gave us more, sort of validated our project and our company and our product, and really gave us confidence that we were on the right track.
Great. Yeah. And as Eric mentioned, during that prize, we partnered with Carnegie Mellon University, who is another power connector. And so we were able, just as now, so typically after you leave Ready, just to share with the group, after you leave Ready and you get awarded that prize, what's always been amazing to me about Solar Prize is that, it's not just, a grant application where you get funded and you have a lot of obligations afterwards. There's a lot of investment in your success. And so teams are partnered with a power connector to kind of lead you through each step of the journey and go over the goals that you have to meet and kind of keep you on track and ask if you need anything and support, provide resources as you need them. So Sierra, is there anything that you want to share regarding your journey from Ready to Go?
Yeah, I would, I think kind of what Eric covered was very much our experience as well. And I definitely want to also stress the fact that kind of the Ready stage and the earlier stages, I think, coming from, we hadn't worked with any kind of government funding before this. And we were a little bit worried going in, hearing, some people who worked on kind of much, other kind of programs that had much more diligence and much more overhead, and we were pretty pleasantly surprised at how easy we found it to kind of meet the requirements and get our submissions in, and there was quite a bit of support in terms of if we have questions about what was required and kind of specifically how we were going to be judged and what the rubric was. The connectors made it really easy to have people to reach out to and get that clarification, which was really helpful, especially I think as we're getting to the Go submission, where that, as Eric was saying, there's much more requirements, but also very much aligned with what businesses needed to grow. But we felt like there was a lot of support along the way to help us kind of grow with that and meet those. So yeah.
So, and I'll open this question up to either one of you. So maybe there's not like one solid answer, but is there anything that you found that you felt like benefited your application or made you successful or stand out in any of the phases from Ready to Go? Was there anything that you're like, oh, once I was able to secure this or accomplish this, I felt like this was going to really help my application?
I'll speak. We once we got through the Ready phase and we started to realize just how powerful this was going to be, and as Sierra said, not being a grant that you have to constantly manage and justify your life, but here's some cash, and sort of the we trust you kind of element to it, which was delightful. That made us really realize that just how good this could be for us. And so we put a lot of effort into it. After the Ready round, we really stepped it up. I said that, that first video, I think we got better at it with the subsequent videos. And we put a lot of effort into having a really good application, following the rules explicitly. And frankly, the timing for us, our solution and what's happening in terms of GHG recognition for the solar industry and aluminum and the the advancement of the U.S. market, we were also, I think, our timing was really good.
Yeah, I think I would like to add, there is a separate JEDI prize, and a separate award for that, which we weren't kind of the JEDI winners for our round, but I think from talking to the connectors and also through the program, I think we did stand out because we focused on also some JEDI components and kind of benefits of our technology, which is something that's very aligned with the team's mission. And we came into this because we felt like workforce development and education and kind of equal access was something that really drove us. So I think we didn't focus on it that much in the ready phase, as you guys can see from the video. It's very much just kind of product focused. But as we dug into it more and was mapping out both where we're going and all the kind of layers of impact and value that we could bring, we spent a little bit more time working on the Jedi side of it. And I think that was also quite helpful in making us stand out.
I agree, Sierra, definitely. And just to give the group a kind of a history of the Jedi Prize, which is justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. During Solar Prize Round 5, which Eric and Sierra were a part of, this was the first introduction to the Jedi Prize, and it was only opened up to the software teams at that time. So Sierra and her fellow software competitors were able to submit additional text and video formats to compete in that prize, but the hardware teams were not. I can kind of skip ahead to the questions I had outlined, but I wanted to get to that and talk a little bit more about that. And even Eric, I know that you didn't submit during that time, but is that something that your company is looking at, is just how to better serve those underserved populations areas? Have you kind of considered those in your business model? And if the answer is no, this isn't the right time, I totally understand. I was curious, how teams are continuing to think about that even past the competition.
So far, it has not been a significant element of what our planning is for. However, as we're moving into to the supply chain, because our model is to use contract manufacturing, we are essentially a steel company. And so we are looking at fabrication partners and looking at their locales, and certainly is a goal to try to increase participation in this and to try to find jobs in distressed areas in the country. That also aligns with IRA, but it has not been a core part of our business plan so far.
Yeah, and that's and I know, and that's been a lot of times that we hear that, especially in the early stage of hardware teams. And so I just wanted a chance to touch on that and share that, if you want to talk through that with a power connector, any of the teams that are on the call today, in past years and past rounds, it was kind of an introductory, element, and now they're actually asking teams to really take into consideration that. And even if you're looking at a business plan in the future, a lot of times we see that definitely at ready, maybe you're not ready to compete in that, but it's a good chance to just start thinking about it and thinking, how can I incorporate these elements into my business? How can I think about it when I'm searching out customers or seeking out staffing or thinking of new partnerships with other organizations? So if you want to walk through that with a power connector or just discuss it, we're always open to that. And again, maybe it's not something you're ready to tackle right now, but definitely something in the future to keep in mind.
We are. Thank you.
Yeah. With that being said, were there elements of the application you felt were challenging? Like I know even as you get to the end, and what I find a lot with teams is that you're trying to meet the elements of the competition, but you're also trying to compete with some other initiatives and activities you have going on in your business. And, just kind of how you want to tackle some of those challenges. I know Sarah and I have talked about this as she was nearing the end of Go, and just kind of, how you were maybe challenged, balancing all of those, and then choosing which ones you focus on first.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. I think, this is part of growing any kind of startup or small business, and you have, only so many people and so many resources, and you're pulled in all kinds of directions all the time. So definitely there were times in the competition where, we were trying to just figure out if we even had the resources to continue to go and do this, and kind of the various other aspect, product development, sales, marketing, that we wanted to do. I think that was the most challenging part. I do want to say that I think, in terms of the prize and, how they structured it, it is I don't think the burden is that high. I think we were just at a place where we were completely overwhelmed. And we, ended up making it work, but there wasn't any kind of particular requirements or particular, I think, aspects of the application that was difficult. It's always just kind of a prioritization thing and trying to figure out how to get those resources to kind of get a chance at all these different opportunities.
I would say, as an analogy, one of our team members, our strategy officer, is constantly just really hammering all the team on making progress and on doing the hard work and really challenging us to to don't just pass over something you don't want to do. We got to really address it and dive into it. And I would say that the Solar Prize process had a lot of that element of sort of in our discussions with our power connectors, and the process itself and answering the each round forced us to really dive in and deal with things that are important to the business. And so from that perspective, it was very good for us. It really, I think it was a key element to help us. You can't just pass over these difficult issues. You got to address them and dive into them.
Eric, just because I've worked with many teams, especially like round 6 that is wrapping up, and they just completed their final applications for round 6, and the final go requirement is that you must have a pilot partner secured with a legally binding commitment. Was that difficult for you to find that? I mean, it sounds like you had a lot of other relationships in the queue at that point, but did you have any trouble securing that at the end, or kind of what was that last few months and making sure that you met that commitment?
We ended up, I think, with 4 signed commitments, and that was a lot of work, but it was also part and parcel of what we were moving forward as well. Because our next round of financing, you need to show progress on each one of these elements, and so getting the signed commitments. It was a lot of work, especially when you're pre-commercial, and so you're looking for a commitment that has real meaning, but you're also pre-commercial, and so there was a lot of nuances to that. But we were happy to be able to get that level, and I think that was part of having that many commitments and real commitments. And we are engaged with all 4 of those companies to this day, and making progress. So that was an important part of what we needed to do, but I would not say it was something that was like super onerous, but it was part of what we had to do.
Yeah, and I actually had a question in the chat from Dr. Sharon Simmons, who just talked about, what does it look like with one entrepreneur in the competition, and how do you form a team when you start off with one? Eric, I know that you didn't come in with just one, but Sierra, I know it was just you and Natasha at the start. Remind me if that's correct, if you want to explain a little bit about, your initial team and where you're at today with that.
Yeah, so we did end up hiring some additional team members quite soon after I think it was shortly after the Ready Prize, or I think it might have been before we even got through the Ready round, and we were already in a hiring process. I think in terms of developing at the pace that this prize kind of expects you to over the course of kind of the year, you definitely, I would be, given how kind of resource constrained we felt, and we were at 4 people, I think, through the beginning of the prize, and then we grew to 6 at the very end. And kind of we were juggling kind of other commitments and things at the same time. I think it would be quite difficult to kind of get through. I think Ready, you can definitely do it with one person, but as you're kind of going on and additional requirements start coming in, it would be very helpful to start growing the team and have more resources to meet kind of those requirements, both on just kind of the product development side, both in either hardware or software, and from kind of the sales side, right? Getting those commitments, getting those partnerships in. So yeah, I think this is quite fast paced over the 3 rounds. I think usually teams come in quite early, and we were quite early in our whole kind of development process. And by the end, they're expecting kind of paying customers, or expecting this with a very clear timeline of kind of becoming commercially viable. So there's a lot of growth that's expected over that period.
Yeah, and I would share, Dr. Simmons, just on some of the other teams that I've seen go through this journey. And a lot of times at this early stage, an entrepreneur comes in with an idea or concept, and that's really where the American Made Network can come into play. And there are connectors who are willing to support individual entrepreneurs as an advisor and help walk you through that. So I'd be happy to talk you through that and give you some recommendations based on your needs or any other teams that are looking for additional team members. I'd be happy to talk you through finding a connector in the network and someone that would be willing to work with you on that. And a lot of other times is looking in your community, what you have available to support you. And maybe that's a university, a researcher, maybe there's a local incubator attached to your university, but again, happy to help connect you in that. And then I think there was a second question about how far into the development should you be for the Ready Prize? Is there a lower upper threshold of R&D or readiness level? Really, at this point for Ready, you're eligible for it with a simple concept. But I do always kind of caution that and say, if you have a concept that doesn't, you still want to have some of the planning behind it and identify what your next steps are. So if you won the first prize with the $50,000, what would be your very first need that you had? Would it be to, work on your R&D? Would it be to hire someone? Can you leverage some things on the network on the business development side, but use funding to focus on the R&D? Because the second set of goals would be that by the set round, when you submit, you will need to have proof of concept at that point, along with some custom discovery, and show that you've utilized the network. So hopefully that was helpful, Dr. Simmons. Let's see, and then there was a second question. I'll try to get to these as we go along, because maybe Sierra and Eric could offer any guidance they have on it. But what was the leverage that made a strong representation of your team so the partners are willing to invest in you or your company, especially towards the end? Sarah or Eric, do you have any input on that directly?
Well, we ended up with just like we call him a dream investor, a very wealthy individual who his goal was to be part of the solution. As he said, I want to do something to help save the world, and was very excited about what we were doing. I think that, as I mentioned, the timing and the focus in on GHG content and having the right solution all played a big role in us getting the financing and then subsequent financings. And so from that perspective, it was I think a lot of it having the right solution at the right time was a huge part of this. And the network that we connected with, as I've said earlier, they were very engaged, really, challenging and also offering real solutions, and it helped us. Our business model actually evolved substantially in part of working through these difficult questions. We went from a licensing model to a full supply model, and that's a big change, and that was done in large part with help from the connectors.
Sierra, being a software company, do you have like some input on the differences of how you form partnerships? Because really the goal for a software company is to secure paying customers versus a pilot partner. So just kind of, I know that, and you had some paying customers when you entered the competition that were out of the country. And, I knew that you had to make that jump to US customers.
Yeah, for sure. That was something that we were in kind of an interesting place where we had a bit of an existing product that was built for kind of overseas partners, but we were really starting from scratch in terms of what we wanted to build in the US that was quite different from the existing product. So we had some validation there already, but it was trying to figure out, exactly what made the US market different and how do we find the right beachhead for the US market. So I think what made us stand out and find kind of those initial, and I think even for software, these initial users are going to be very much like partners, and it's very beneficial to find initial users who are happy taking on that role, because so much of that depends on kind of their willingness to provide feedback, and it's for a lot of kind of UI UX elements. It's really hard to understand exactly what's difficult or what's not working in a software product, unless you have someone who's willing to kind of work through those with you and try to figure out, like, why does this feel not helpful, or why is this annoying, or kind of what could make it more beneficial. So we were looking for that, and I think what made us stand out was partially because we had experience being kind of developers, and had existing industry experience and kind of understood what it was like trying to run a frontline team and the complexities that came with it. I think that helped quite a bit, versus kind of other software companies, especially Bay Area ones, where you're talking to people who have no idea what the day-to-day is like. So I think that helped a lot in helping us connect and finding great partners. And the other one is just, I think at some point you have to, simply compete on the kind of quality of the product in many different ways, right? And in terms of kind of the particular features, but I think we were really trying to compete on kind of user friendliness from the very start, and trying to break away from some of the kind of enterprise traditional type of applications there, which really aren't very mobile friendly or very easy to pick up, and we were trying to break away from that and differentiate ourselves in that way.
Great, Sarah and Eric. And Abraham put another question in the chat, just how do you go about establishing relationship with power connectors and national labs? And before we dive too far into that, I thought it might be useful if I just kind of share with the group just the differences between power connectors and connectors. So power connector, each prize, there are several power connectors that are onboarded through NREL and contracted with NREL to provide support to teams. And again, that's geared towards making you as successful as possible in your application. And we try to, spread that resource across all the applicants, and try to make our availability equal and without bias as far as who we support. So every prize, and I think I shared right at the beginning that there are 4 power connectors supporting the Solar Prize Round 7 recruitment effort, and that would be ADL, VentureWell, UACI, and Yet2. And I would just take a look at each of them and, maybe take a minute to meet with them and see how your needs align with what they have to offer. But then there's also connectors, which are volunteers. I mean, they volunteer, they sign up in the network and say, we want to support teams. And you can see that map on the American Made Network website. It shows all the connectors throughout the US and kind of talks about their skill level. And the reason that they do volunteer is they want to see you successful, but then if you are successful in the prizes, then they're eligible to win prizes for supporting you. So there is some benefit that comes back to them, which is awesome. So, they're kind of invested in helping you be successful. But I'd love to talk for a minute about national labs. Because that is so, just an exciting part of the competition outside of the money that you can win. You can also receive vouchers to work with national labs. And you can form those relationships right after you win the ready phase, and Sandia and NREL specifically provide representatives to meet with teams to talk about potential scopes of work. Eric and Sierra, I'd love to hear about how your relationship was with the national labs, and what were some of your accomplishments with them.
Go ahead, Sierra.
Okay. Yeah, we had are continuing to work with NREL and have had just a really amazing experience working with their team there. I think, one of the things that we started working on for Illu and really kind of wanted to build up was this concept of, publicly accessible, or at least kind of shared standardized workflows that are immediately kind of, operational. So we'll have a full package of workflows for like O&M, various O&M inspections, kind of IEC standards, or for particular common equipment. That was kind of difficult to do on our own, and we're kind of slowly chipping away at that. From a just content development perspective, and I think our partnership with NREL really helped us kind of move that forward. And it wasn't just the NREL team specifically; they also brought in additional partners, again, training organizations like Solar Energy International, additional kind of contractors who were able to help contribute to that. So now, we've earlier this year, we launched our public workflow library, which covers a lot of best practices for kind of for inspection and testing of kind of solar systems, mostly for CNI type systems. And we could not have done that in this short of a time frame without partnering with NREL and getting their expertise. And it's also just it's so great to work with so many experts there who have been studying exactly, like they're the people who publish the best practice guidelines for solar O&M. So it's great kind of just going to the source and getting exactly those people to kind of help build the content in a way that's consistent kind of on our platform, taking all those guidelines and digitizing them on our platform. And both making that publicly available, but of course that's also helpful for business because it becomes a way that people learn about our platform and start using not just those features but others as well.
We've been partnering with Sandia National Labs for field testing for modules with our frames, and are super happy with the whole process. They're very thorough. They know how to test. They helped us set up and develop the tests that we wanted to do. These are load tests up and so they're going in upstate Michigan, which last year unfortunately we got a huge snow, and so we have really good data from them. And we're moving into our second phase, testing of our Gen 2 module lines with them as well. And so the voucher was super appreciated, and we put it to good use, and we're very happy to have that and to make the connection with the Sandia people who are super pros.
And I will mention just, for all those potential applicants that are listening in, that, there are 17 national labs. You don't have to wait until you get the voucher to engage with them. You are welcome to access their contact information through the American Made Network website. And you can reach out and just say, I'm applying to the Solar Prize Round 7, love to talk to someone. And most likely they'll get back to you and connect you with a project coordinator that can speak with you about, potential scope of work if you were to win down the line. So the vouchers can be used at any of those 17 national labs, and you can also use a portion of the voucher funds at a private laboratory, but not the full voucher. But I'm happy to talk about that down the road. But I know we're getting closer to time, and love to get through a couple additional questions. I just wanted to just talk about, after you guys won the competition and you won those final funds, how has that propelled your business or your company and to where you're at today, and kind of what are your big next goals that you're looking to focus on?
Sierra, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I think winning the prize, I think, has really helped us, I think, gain the confidence and enough of a toehold in this market to kind of continue pursuing that. And I think kind of this geographic decision was particular to us and something kind of we spent a lot of time strategizing around. And so this was really helpful there. I think this also We made a pivot, I think, around going into kind of the later stage of this process, where kind of instead of focusing mostly on kind of contractors, we started also targeting kind of hardware companies who wanted better ways to manage their installer networks. And I think winning the prize, both the funding that came along with the prize, and then also the NREL partnership and the publicity that came with the prize, helped us make that pivot successfully. And we've been going down that route over the past year. So I think those were the two things that were kind of immediately achievable because of where we were with the prize program. And I think in terms of goals now, we're very much in kind of a go-to-market process, especially with this new model of mostly targeting kind of hardware providers, working with kind of more kind of complicated equipment, and trying to bring that to market, try to kind of up their deployment and scaling, which includes kind of a lot of training and management of their installer partners, both external and in-house, as well as their servicing teams. So yeah.
I would mirror what Sarah said about building confidence and validation. Winning the contest, I can't say enough about the sort of the NREL marketing of the contest itself, and the respect that it has within the industry, and the response to Origami from winning the prize was and has been, and it continues to be, a really significant validation from all levels of the sector, from the developers to the installers. And I think that it had a huge impact. We made a huge amount of progress. We're deep with multiple customers now, and they're doing testing. Our goal is to sign our first supply contracts by the end of this year, and to build our first factories by the first in Q1 and start delivering in Q2. And we've advanced on our financing and on testing, prototyping, our supply chain fabrication partners. All of that has advanced substantially since winning the prize, and has been materially impacted, again, through validation. And frankly, the prize money was a huge shot in the arm. We were fortunate to win the $500,000 prize, and we're very happy to have it. And it was a very large sort of bridge until we got our next round of financing.
Thank you both for those responses, and it's been exciting to see you guys progress past winning. It was exciting to see you win and see your journey. I've had more of an opportunity to talk to Sierra over the last year, but I know you've done well, Eric, as well, through Origami, and seeing your success as well. So before we get too close to the end of our time, I just wanted to be able to provide a thank you to Eric and Sierra for being here and sharing your experience. And you both have been just, your willingness to support others in their journey has been, really exciting. And we're very thankful to have that relationship with you guys and be here to join us